Welkom terug. Wat is die effek van die COVID-19-pandemie en die inperkings op huishoudings? 'n Enorme peiling wou die vraag beantwoord. Romanta Botha berig.
Die coronavirus-pandemie kan gesien word as die grootste maatskaplike en ekonomiese skok in ons leeftyd. Die gevolge daarvan is wyd versprei, maar raak veral die armstes. So bevind 'n spesiale COVID-peiling van die nasionale studie oor inkomste dinamika. 30 van Suid-Afrika se voorste maatskaplike navorsers het saamgespan vir die navorsing. Hulle verslae skets 'n donker prentjie. Die navorsing het grootliks gefokus op die toestande vanaf Februarie tot April, toe die staat van inperking op sy strengste was. Volgens die data het 3 miljoen mense wat werke in Februarie gehad het, dit nie meer teen April gehad nie. Dit is 'n afname van 18%. Afleggings het veral vroue hard getref. Van die 3 miljoen mense wat hulle werke verloor het, was 2 miljoen vroue. Dit is 2/3 van alle mense wat hulle werk verloor het. Dit terwyl vroue in Februarie net minder as die helfte van die werksmag uitgemaak het. Sowat 30% van diegene wat onlangs hulle werke verloor het, bly in huise sonder enige maatskaplike toelaag, soos kinder- en ouderdomstoelaag. Die pandemie het ook hongerte in Suid-Afrika vererger. Slegs in April het byna die helfte van respondente, of 47%, se huishoudings nie genoeg geld gehad om kos te koop nie. Dit vergeleke met net 21% wat dieselfde probleem gehad het voor die inperking. Op 'n vraag of enige iemand in hulle huishouding taamlik gereeld honger ly, het 1 uit 8 respondente ja geantwoord. Op die vraag of iemand in hulle huishouding amper elke dag honger ly, het 1 uit 14 respondente ja geantwoord. Ook 1 uit elke 25 respondente sê kinders in hulle huishoudings het byna elke dag honger gely. Die verslag lig uit hoe belangrik staatstoelaag in hierdie huishoudings is. Daar is ook gekyk na die indirekte impak van COVID-19 op gesondheidsorg. Net 78% van respondente met akute mediese toestande het gesondheidsgeriewe besoek. Hulle redes hiervoor hou grootliks verband met 'n vrees vir die opdoen van die virus. Die verslag vergelyk ook hoe verskillende mense hulle COVID-risiko interpreteer. Gegoede Suid-Afrikaners het 'n verhoogde persepsie van die gevare van COVID-19. 53% van welaf Suid-Afrikaners glo dat hulle die virus gaan opdoen, terwyl 25% van arme mense glo hulle gaan dit opdoen. Hoewel 90% van respondente gesê dat hulle gedrag op een of ander manier verander het, het slegs 1 uit 3 respondente die mees effektiewe maatreëls aangewend om te verhoed dat hulle COVID-19 kry. Effektiewe maatreëls sluit in die dra van maskers, die handhaaf van sosiale afstandsmaatreëls en die vermyding van besige plekke.
Ek verwelkom nou vir Dr Nic Spaull van Universiteit Stellenbosch, onder wie se leiding die navorsingsverslae saamgestel is. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Are we at the point, Nick, where lives are at risk because of the economic crisis and where social stability is at risk?
So I think that what our survey has shown is that income loss and job loss is much higher than we thought it would be. Whether or not that's going to translate into lives being lost as a result of the lockdown and these economic impacts, we're going to be able to see that in the coming waves. But we definitely know that the impact has been severe, particularly for the poor.
Nick, you say coming waves. Already we see, according to your research, about 3 million people out of jobs and 1.5 million others not receiving an income, even though they technically still have jobs. The impact of this was not equally felt across the country. You mentioned poor people were most severely affected. Why is that?
So if we think of what the lockdown's impact is on people's work, some people could continue to do their work from home. If they use their laptop, they use the internet, they can continue with their work and earn their income. Whereas if you think of informal workers, informal traders, people, a lot of domestic workers that did not get paid because they couldn't go to work, the people that got most affected by this, if we look at the breakdown by income, people that were earning more than 24,000 Rand a month in February, only 5% of them lost their jobs. Whereas those that were earning less than 3,000 Rand, 38% of them lost their jobs between February and April. So it's very clear that the impact of the lockdown was felt most severely by the poor, and as the segment just before this mentioned, particularly by women.
Nick, so the poor people who lost income during these past few months, how much support from government did they tell you they were getting?
So the main income support that they were getting before the lockdown in many families would have been labor market income. So there's a common misconception that just because people are receiving grants, that's their only or their main source of income. It's actually not. For the majority of even the poor, grant income is not the majority of their income. So I think it was 40% of grant receiving households report that labor market income is their main source of income, but 3/4 of the poor indicate that labor market income is some form of their income, not just grant income. So in terms of the rollout of the new COVID-19 grant, the special relief grant that government is rolling out, that basically had not been implemented by the time we were going into the field in May, although it was a little bit in June. However, the top up to the child support grant and the old age pension, that had already been implemented. So the hunger statistics that we're seeing, those are actually after the top up has already happened. Which is really worrying.
I want to ask you about families who could not rely on government support. We know that the special COVID relief grant took some months to roll out. Even a few weeks ago, news reports said that only 15% of those who qualify got that money. For those who didn't get state support in these last few months, what kind of other support structures existed for them?
Sure. So we did also ask families or people what support they got, whether they got support from their friends and family in their community, from faith-based organizations or NGOs. And about just under 10% of households reported each one of those options. So less than a third of households reported that they received some form of relief from something other than government, whether that's NGOs or friends or family. So 2/3 were only receiving relief either from government or not at all.
Now, Nic, although there is some poverty in all communities, we know that poverty is centered in the black community by and large. The black community is also disproportionately affected by the economic crisis. How do you explain that?
So if what we mentioned earlier about the types of work that were able to be done during the lockdown and the types of work that were prevented, as well as the income distribution about who was being affected, that's also very racialized. So if we look at the people that had jobs in February, of white people that had jobs, 1% lost their jobs, compared to 28% black people that had jobs in February that lost their jobs. So because those types of jobs that are possible to do during lockdown, white people are more likely to be doing those people, and those that are earning higher incomes are more likely to be doing that work, which meant that this pandemic has been most severe for the poor, most of whom are Black African.
Right, Nic. So you say in the report that it's time for bold action, and in your article in the Financial Mail that appeared today, what do you have in mind? What should government do?
So the one thing that I think a lot of the researchers mentioned is that the top-up grants cannot be stopped in October or even later in the year, that they really need to continue if we are to avoid a famine. But I think we also need to recognize that South Africa is not going to be a stable place if you have millions of people that are in serious food poverty. In other words, they are struggling to get all of their meals in a single week. I mean, 7% of households reported that they're going hungry every single day or almost every day. That is not going to be stable. We have to find new ways of distributing opportunity and income to those households. So I think that we need more progressive forms of both wealth and income redistribution, but that we need a competent and ethical state to do that.
Nic, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Bly ingeskakel. Die program gaan net hierna voort.